Hey guys, actually, let me sit more comfortably. I like to sit like this. All right, so in my last video, someone left a comment and wanted to know about the update on my Airbnbs, which I was actually going to do, so that was coincidental. So I thought actually this must be meant to happen. So I'm here to give you an update about my Airbnbs and what's been going on with it. I gotta be real with you. Airbnb is hard right now. It is. I've spoken to quite a few people actually, and all of us that have Airbnbs, we're all kind of struggling a little bit. I don't know what it is, but the Airbnb platform is just not giving us people. Like, I've mentioned it to others and they've been like, oh, maybe it's the season, you have to wait till December. It's not that, because this time last year, like I had one Airbnb, if you remember, and it was booked like back to back. It was always booked. There might have been a space of maybe 1-2 weeks maximum, but it was always ticking over. There was always someone in there. This year has been completely hard. Like from January all the way till now, it's been like drips of people coming in. And I think it's because Airbnb is not actually showing the properties. I don't think that there's no one coming to Ghana that needs a place to stay. I think Airbnb is really just not showing our properties. So if you're in the Airbnb, if you're in the I can't even talk. If you're in the Airbnb field, drop a comment for me and let me know if you're experiencing the same thing. Now, another thing, so there are a few things that I've learned on my Airbnb experience that I'm going to share with you today. Not 1, 2, maybe 3 people have said this exact same thing to me. When it comes to Airbnb properties, sometimes if you're abroad and you book a place in Ghana, what people are doing is they're showing you this amazing place that you're getting, right? And so you think, I've booked this lovely place, and then all of a sudden you get here and then the owner will tell you it's taken, there's been a double booking or something like that, and it's taken, but they have another one for you. Now that other apartment will be somewhere in the sticks somewhere, like down some rough road or whatever, and it's causing people a problem. So some people have demanded their money back. Some people just have put up with the fact that they couldn't get the Airbnb that they wanted. I'm like, who does that? Like, that's so dishonest to deliberately do that. So people are deliberately doing this. This is not an accident. They're actually deliberately doing this. I've heard quite a few people tell me this. So that's crazy. But anyway, so my Airbnb has never had that situation before. But honestly, the ins and outs of Airbnb is that it's not very hands-off. If you want to go into the Airbnb business, you need to think very hard first, because it's not without its pressures. So obviously, if you're paying rent and you need to make sure your rent is covered, having an Airbnb business is going to be tough, unless maybe you have a lot of them to mitigate the risk, right, of one being empty. That's the way to go for that. So that's a little bit risky, I would say. In times like this, I think even if you drop the price, because I've also tried dropping the price, it doesn't actually really make an impact into how your property is getting viewed. So perhaps maybe at this stage where Airbnb is not promoting your property, you need to look for an agent or someone like that in order to help, because it's, like I said, it's tough out here right now. I have superhost status, but still nothing, and I contacted Airbnb 100 times and the same thing. Oh yeah, people are looking, just maybe people are not booking. Like, I don't think so. But yeah, Airbnb is tough right now. I think that if you're going to use Airbnb as like your sole income, be very careful of that, because it can fail you at any point. So for me, when I have my Airbnb, I try to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I try to be realistic in my projections, right? So I thought, okay, maybe like a 50% occupancy rate. I haven't even had a 50% occupancy rate right now. I really haven't. It's been absolutely awful, really bad. I feel like really what we should do is have some type of platform for ourselves here in Ghana of Airbnbs that people have actually stayed in and had an experience in that can actually understand. Because Airbnb is doing whatever they want. It's almost like you're at their mercy. So you have to be careful with that. I probably said that a few times, right? So you have to be careful with that if that's the route that you want to go. And another thing is that when you have an Airbnb, I'm sure you already know, even if you're in the West, it's the same thing, right? there are always going to be issues, things happening, and I think here in Ghana it can happen. So I've had instances where I've had someone in the apartment and something's gone wrong, and then you start to panic. You're like, oh my gosh. Like in one of my previous videos, I mentioned that the key for the door stopped working, and then I was desperately looking for a locksmith to come out and try to change it. So little things like that can happen. Sometimes the plumbing goes wrong, or sometimes, you know, like there's an electricity problem. Like there can be so many things that pop up, and these things you have to be like on the ground to be able to deal with them very, very quickly, so that the person that's in the apartment doesn't have too much inconvenience. So these are things to think about. So if you're going to have an Airbnb, I think if you live far away from your Airbnb, make sure that you have someone on site that's going to manage it for you, because that will really help you out. Because like if an emergency does pop up, sometimes you may not be able to leave where you are immediately to come and take care of your property. Another thing is, once a person leaves, it's turning over the property as well. Sometimes turning over the property can be a chore, I'm telling you. It's like, especially when you're very busy, like to take the bed sheets, go wash them, put them back, you know, clean up, make sure everything is done. And you know, you have to check literally everything. You have to check under the bed, make sure there's no dust, check the windowsills. Like you're literally checking everywhere to make sure that your Airbnb is pristine. And so doing that is a lot of hard work. I think for me, one of the things that's helped me to deal with some of that is to make sure that I have a minimum 2-night stay. Because for a 1-night stay, for someone to come and do 1-night stay and then you have to turn over the whole apartment, it kind of makes it almost not worth it. Even though you will perhaps charge a cleaning fee, just the work that goes into turning over after one day, I think is a lot of work. So for me personally, I prefer a minimum 2-night stay. And also that stops the Ashawos booking your apartment too. Because that's a real thing. Okay, so you have to be careful. Look, when you're in the Airbnb business, you have to be smart about certain things, right? If you have sometimes like 1 day, 1 night bookings, right, you can get people that will want to come in, just maybe have like some type of get together for 1 day and then just leave your house in a mess. You don't really want that. You want people to come who are going to be responsible, so that you know that your apartment is going to be left in a nice state. You don't want things to get damaged, you don't want things to get broken, all of that. So I personally think, and it's worked for me, having a minimum 2-night stay mitigates some of that thing, because you know, people come in, they just want a place to party for 1 night, or a place to, you know, see their girlfriend for 1 night and then they're out. So you don't want that happening in your place. You want to keep your place nice, you know. So right now I am in the process of putting my giving my Airbnb to some agents to help me manage, because I feel like it's such a waste to have 2 Airbnbs which can potentially make some decent money, and having them empty, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, so that's the front on that, I would say. I would still say that Airbnb is a nice way to generate some income here, because you know, you can earn in pounds or dollars, and that's really the way to go. Because right now the city is just, it's crazy. The exchange rate is just no good, honestly. I think the pound right now is it's almost 20. If you're exchanging pounds to cities, it's about almost 20, which is crazy, because when I first came to Ghana, the exchange rate was 4. That's a difference of 10 years. It's gone all the way to 20. So you can imagine what that's done. And so now I'm going to go a bit off topic again. So I think, honestly speaking, there's no point in holding on to cities. Like if you have cities, spend your cities, because it doesn't make sense to hold cities when it's just going to keep depreciating all the time. It's just going down, 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 down. Can you imagine if I had like £10,000 worth equivalent of cities at the time, how much money I would have lost? It would practically be water by now. If I then wanted to change it and use it for something, the value's just completely gone. So honestly speaking, a smart move for here is just don't hold cities. If you earn in cities, just spend it on the things that you need to spend it on, right? If you need to buy stuff at cities, buy your stuff in cities, and then just keep your pounds intact, because I don't think it's going to stop at 20. I think it's just going to keep doing this. I mean, let's wait and see what December does, because December is usually the time when, you know, things start to, you know, people start coming into the country, and so things start changing a bit, the economy changes a bit, and also it's election time around November, December time, so that will also have an effect. So keep your pounds and your dollars in your pocket as much as you can, and spend your cedis if that's what you get. But honestly speaking, I think it's a nice balance to have the two currencies, if you can work with the two currencies, because you don't always want to have to change your pounds. If you earn some stuff in cities, you can have your cities spend here, you have your pounds to do the bigger, more important things with. I think that's an excellent way to go. But yeah, so all in all, Airbnb is a great way to generate income, but it's definitely not reliable unless perhaps maybe you're open to doing like some longer term lets, which personally for me, I don't really want to do in my apartments. I don't want to really do more than maybe 3 months at a time, unless I know the person going in there. I just would prefer, I just think it's too much maintenance, because it's an Airbnb, so you have to understand the difference, right? So if I have an apartment and I'm saying, okay, this is your apartment and you can take it for a year, my hands are kind of off it, right? But if it's an Airbnb and I let someone stay in there for like a year, it's too much maintenance for me, because the onus is on me to make sure that that apartment keeps ticking over. You know, you're going to call me to change the bed sheets. You're going to call me for every tiny little thing, right? And I don't want that. So for me, that's why I don't do longer term lets in my apartment, because I feel like it's just going to be too much. The apartment wasn't built for long stays unless I know you. And if I know you, then we're going to have an agreement that the apartment is yours for a year, and these are the rules. That's a different thing. But for me, it's just not like that. And honestly, I wouldn't like someone in my space for that long periods. Introvert problems, you know. So I personally wouldn't do that. But I have actually thought, I mean, if Airbnb was still going really good for me, I did actually consider at one point maybe getting a place for a year, doing it up, and putting it out on Airbnb for profit. I have thought about that route, but right now what Airbnb has shown me, I think it's teaching me some kind of lesson in advance. I'm not going to do that, because I think it's too risky, because I don't want to be left with the shortfall of not having someone in my Airbnb apartment, and I've paid like a year's rent to have it. So yeah, I think that's too risky. And the only way, like I said before, to mitigate that risk is to have multiple of them, which I'm not in a financial position to do right now. So that's that. So if you have an Airbnb business, let me know in the comment section. I would love to know how your Airbnb business is going. I was going to say something, but I need to think it through. So maybe in another video, I'll mention it. Yeah, so that's it. So drop me a comment in the comment section, and let me know if you have an Airbnb, how it's going for you. Let me also know, give me some feedback, right, about what your Airbnb experience has been like in Ghana, if you've stayed in one, because I personally would like to know for my own apartment, so I know what people maybe are missing, or things that I should do. That would be awesome. Another thing that I didn't mention about Airbnb is that some people will just want to complain. They just want to complain. I'm sorry. So some people will just want to complain about nothing. I've had someone come into the apartment. Okay, so I'm going to tell this story. So I had someone come and stay in the apartments, and everything was going fine. And I would check on them. Is everything okay in the apartment? Oh yeah, everything's lovely. Da, 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 da. Then they went away and they wrote me this really terrible review. They sent me an email and they wrote this really bad review about the apartment. Now, the things that they said in this review, I have never had anybody tell me anything like this. In fact, every single person that's come to stay in my apartments is like, I've had like, your apartment is amazing. I've had like the best time. Everything had been amazing until this person came in and decided that they wanted to say something bad about the apartment. And then I'm telling this story, oh my gosh. And then after they had done that, then they sent me another email afterwards, right? And then asked if I need investors in my trash Airbnb apartments. Apparently they asking if I wanted an investor. No, I do not want an investor. So that's what I mean by people will just complain just for complaining's sake, because the things that they were complaining about, like Things like the apartment seemed smaller than what they had expected. Like the dogs across the road were barking out of my control. You know, like perhaps there are a few things that were in my control. Let me try and think so that I give a fair, because I like to be fair. Let me think of one of the things that they said. Oh, well, they talked about the view. They said that there's no view, but I never said that there was a view. They said that there was a little bit of noise from upstairs. So apparently they can hear me when I'm sweeping the floor, but nobody else has ever complained about. I've never heard that before. But anyway, I'm not going to get down in the dirt, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so you know, little things like that can happen. So I think when you have an Airbnb, sometimes you are vulnerable to what another person is going to say about your business, and there's not much you can do about it. But I guess that's the same in any business. Even if you have a food business, someone's going to want to complain because they do have the power to complain, and that's pretty much it. But I think even when you get negative reviews like that, the amount of positive reviews that you get kind of sweep the negative ones out, you know, out of the way. But like I said, I've only had one really bad review, and that was that. So yeah, anyway, I said I was going to end the video and I've been talking, but I am going to end the video now. So yeah, so leave me your comments and your suggestions down in the description box for me. I'd love to know what you think. Yeah, and that's it. So if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Don't forget to also like, comment, and share this video. Until next time, I am out.